Doing good.
Good. All right, it is 12:03. This is a very full session today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I've got the recording going. As we go through, of course, please make sure you ask any questions that you have. So this is our last session of pyramid model practices for this year, for the school year. So we are going into addressing challenging behaviors part 2. And so today's session, we're really going to focus on understanding how to create intensive individualized intervention plans and what the process looks like for that. So a couple of reminders, sorry, let me get my screen shifted correctly. A couple of reminders, we've talked about this in earlier sessions and in other trainings that we have. Behavior is a form of communication. Behavior is learned and behavior has meaning. So sometimes when we want to address challenging behaviors, we have to dig a little deeper into how this relates to creating an individualized intensive intervention program. So, there's behavior in what it looks like, and then we have to understand what the function of that behavior is. So this list on this slide looks at a couple different forms of behavior. And sometimes the same form of behavior can have different meanings. So when we talk about positive behavior support, this is going to be based on the assumption that children's challenging behavior does have meaning. And hello, Natalie. It's good to see you on today. So behavior can mean a couple different things. We look at some examples to think about how to explain behavior in the way that it has meaning. And so we've talked on different trainings about how behaviors can be used as a form to communicate different things. So challenging behavior, like hitting or spitting or screaming, can be a way to communicate to others what a child wants. So that's why we have to figure out the meaning of that behavior and what it's trying to communicate with us. So we'll talk a little bit more in today's session and later on the training today about identifying those meanings. Challenging behavior may also occur when children don't have the appropriate way to communicate a message. So maybe they don't know how to label their feelings. Maybe they don't know how to talk about what they're feeling. Maybe they don't even know how to sign or use picture symbols to communicate what they need with us. So even when a child has a way of communicating, they may still have challenging behavior if they have limited social skills or have learned over time that engaging in this challenging behavior will effectively meet their needs. So when children engage in challenging behavior, it's because it works for them. They have learned over time that if they do this particular behavior, this is going to reinforce getting them what they need or what they want. And so because the child gains access to something or avoids something, they are able to continue to use that. So we may not like the message of the behavior that we're seeing, but we can identify and understand the meaning in order to develop an intervention. So we want to think about questions like, what are some of the first things that children can communicate? When do children first communicate? How do they use different forms of behavior to communicate things? Yes, absolutely. Natalie, you are definitely able to ask questions as we go through and even later on if you have any further concerns.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. So, when children first learn to communicate, they may use different forms of communication behavior. How do children first tell you no or that they want something? What about when they're, 9 months old and they don't have words? So when we think about communication and behavior, we can identify both the communication meaning, they're requesting something, they're protesting something, or they're commenting on something, and the form of communication itself. So whether this is crying or pointing or using words, the behavior can be identified and then it can be analyzed to determine the function of that behavior. So function has been used in these training series since the beginning when we talk about behaviors. And so with this training, we're going to expand on, function of behaviors. So function is going to answer the question of why that behavior is occurring. And we know that challenging behavior has meaning. It's an attempt to communicate that the child either wants something or they're trying to avoid something. And so knowing the intent of that communication helps us understand why the behavior is occurring. So children engage, again, in these challenging behaviors because it works for them. So they are able to obtain, something that they need or something that they want, whether it's attention or toys or food, or they're using that behavior to avoid something. They might be trying to escape somebody's attention, or they might be trying to avoid a demand that has been made of them, or they're trying to avoid stimulation around them. So these are some examples of some functions of behavior. So there is a process to determine the function of the behavior. We're going to kind of go through this today. And so this process is going to be what we consider the ABC process. So we have A as the antecedent. So this is going to be what happens right before a behavior occurs. We can also consider this to be our trigger. Then we have B, which is the actual behavior itself. This is something we can see or hear the child saying or doing in order to communicate their needs. And then C, we have consequence. So this is immediately what happens immediately after the behavior. When we talk about consequence in determining the function of the behavior, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily like the punishment that followed, but what immediately happened either with the child or with the teacher or with the friends that has over time reinforced that behavior itself. So in order to understand behavior, we have to look for clues about what happens right before and what happens right after the behavior. Behaviors do not happen necessarily out of the blue. So we're going to look at, going to go into depth a little bit further in the next few slides. So antecedents, these are going to be what happens right before the behavior. So some examples, we might, be asking, was the peer playing with a toy that the student wanted? Or were we talking with another child? And it's been a while since we gave that particular child attention from us. And so knowing when the challenging behavior is most likely to happen and when the challenging behavior is less likely to happen, this helps us plan how and what to change in our behaviors and in our environment to prevent the challenging behavior. So, these are some examples of some possible antecedents. This is going to be also, like I said, what we call our trigger. We know our A's, B's, and C's over time with observation. And we'll talk about that further in today's session. So behavior, it's something that we say or do. It's an action, and this is something that can be observed. So the behavior must result in measurable change. We must be able to measure the behavior. Maybe we count how many times it happens in an hour, or maybe we count how frequently it happens throughout the day. So an operational definition is very specific to ensure that everyone is counting the same action as the behavior that we're trying to target. So if we've got multiple people taking information on this child to try and assess what their behavior is trying to communicate, we all need to be on the same page of what exactly is the behavior that we're looking at. If it's hitting during snack time, that's very specific. If we kind of just say hitting in general, who are they hitting? Are they hitting their friends? Are they hitting teachers? Or how frequently are they hitting? At what points of the day are they hitting? And that way we can make sure that we're all collecting the same information and to work as a team to address these behaviors. And then the consequence, like I said, this is not necessarily something that's a punishment, but a consequence is what is going to happen immediately after that behavior occurs. So this tells us what the function of the behavior is. Is the child getting something? Are they obtaining something? Or are they avoiding something? So this is really important because if they're trying to obtain your attention, our approach to addressing that challenging behavior is going to look different than if that child is trying to avoid our attention. And if we don't quite have it right about the function of the behavior, then we might actually end up reinforcing it when we're trying to intervene. So it's gonna take time, it's gonna take documentation, it's gonna take really intentional observation in order to determine the function of that behavior so that we can change the consequence and we can change the behavior. So there's gonna be some examples here. So this is going to be the information that we need to observe so that the ABCs can be identified, and then we can determine the function of behavior. So we're going to observe. This is not just a one-time thing. We're going to have to observe frequently, especially if we want to intervene. It doesn't have to be a huge, lengthy process, but we do have to have data across a period of time in order to determine how frequently is this happening, who is it happening with, what are the triggers, what are the consequences, what observable behavior are we trying to change before we can understand why this behavior is happening, the function of that behavior. So the antecedent, what happens before, the behavior itself, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what happens afterwards. It could be a positive or negative consequence. So for example, the child is screaming, the teacher goes up to the child and gives them a hug every time that they scream. That's the consequence. The teacher is giving the child a hug. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a bad or a good thing for a consequence. Just thinking about this is the actions that happen immediately after this behavior occurs. Once we know that, we want to identify, what our goal is for addressing this behavior. And then, we're going to use this data to figure out why the behavior is happening. So this is a duplicate slide that we just saw a couple slides ago, but just remember, there are different possibilities for a function of the behavior. We're going to talk about these functions as we go into an activity here. Is there anything that we want to add to this list? Are there any other functions of behaviors that you guys can think of? Okay.
No.
Lori, did you have one?
No, I was just going to say, no, it looks like everything's pretty much covered, for something that they want to obtain or gain or something that they want to avoid.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now it's time to figure out that function. So we're gonna, play name that function. And so as we're gonna watch a couple of videos, and our videos are gonna be centered around a little boy named Tim. And as we're watching the videos, I want you to pay attention to what happens right before the behavior occurs, and you'll know the behavior when it happens. What happened right before, what is the behavior itself, and then what happened afterwards. And after we watch the videos, we'll kind of engage in a brief discussion on what we expect the child's function of the behavior is. Is he trying to get something, or is he trying to avoid something? So our first video is here. This one's about 33-second long video, so it's a short one, very quick. Try and pay attention. Let me make sure my sound's turned up. Okay.
She's scared to go water, and the other one's I'm coming. Don't do it, Dad. It's on my shoulder.
Okay, so thinking of this video.
She's scared to go water.
So Tim obviously was the little boy in the red shirt. Anybody want to try and guess what okay, let's start with the behavior. What was the behavior, the challenging behavior that we saw in here? Oh, and hi, Jolise.
So you want the behavior, not what happened before.
You can tell me antecedent if you want to first, or we can do behavior.
he was doing raspberries before he, pushing the truck, doing raspberries, going over to join the group before he hit the little boy and scratched him.
Okay, yep. So you got both of those. So our antecedent, he's playing alone. He goes over to a group of children. Behavior itself starts making the raspberries. He hits the boy, scratches his shoulder. And then what happened immediately after that behavior occurred?
He turned around, and then the boy that was the victim, I guess you could say, he said, turned around and looked at him square in the face and said, "Stop doing that." And then told the teacher he bothered his shoulder, touched his shoulder.
Okay. Yeah. So with this one, the boy's yelling at him. There was a boy who did bring a lizard over, and then the boy does yell to the teacher.
Yes.
So what was trying to happen here? Was he trying to obtain something, or was he trying to get away from something?
I think he was trying to obtain something. I think he wanted to play with the other children because he was alone before. And he just doesn't know how to join the group of children.
Right. So with this one, he is using these behaviors to obtain attention. He tried to go over to his friends and interact with them. Didn't work. Blue raspberries, scratch, because he didn't have anybody's attention. So the function of this particular video behavior was to obtain attention. So this was a 33-second video, and we were able to obtain all of that information. So again, this process does not have to be long or complicated, but it does take time, and it does take us being intentional on paying attention to the behaviors themselves so that we can determine the function in order to come up with a process to address them. Okay, we've got a 54-second video here. This is a different boy. Again, we're still going to look for the antecedent, what happens before the behavior, what the behavior is itself, and the consequence, so we can talk about the function of the behavior.
It's time for you to sleep. Yes.
Look at me, yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes. Good job. Okay, we're going to say bye-bye to Mimi. Bye-bye, Mimi. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Okay, we're going to do movement time. Movement time. Here we go. We're going to do our dance.
Ryan, ready to dance? You want to dance, Ryan? Yeah? Dance. Hi, buddy. How are you? How are you?
Yeah, we're going to do that. Okay, here we go.
All right, so this one, let's go through this one. What was our antecedent?
He looks really overstimulated. As the other children are around him, you can kind of see his face. Just kind of turns to, just overstimulation. You can just kind of read it.
Okay, and what was the behavior itself?
So, he didn't necessarily, and I was focusing more on like the little boy in between the two girls. And it looked like he wasn't necessarily doing anything at first, but he did, once he kind of realized he was looking a little overstimulated, he was kind of looking around. He did crawl over to that teacher and went over to her for attention. But that's kind of what I saw from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before the behavior, the teacher was using the puppet Mimi, I guess to say goodbye and kissing everybody. I noticed the little boy that when once Mimi was put away, he started kind of like hitting himself in the head and pulling on his clothing, like he was frustrated, or like Natalie was saying, overstimulated. He clearly wanted something.
Right. And then what happened after that? I think
what Natalie said, he crawled over to the other teacher, which shows that he did want something. He was trying to obtain something.
yeah. Yep, so we see the puppets. We see the teacher put the puppet away. He starts hitting himself on his head with his fists. He's pulling at his shirt. The teacher, talks to him. Are you ready to dance? Do you want to dance? And he goes to her lap, sits and smiles. So what was he trying to obtain?
Well, it looked like, I mean, out of all the kids, I don't think didn't get like the kiss on the cheek with a puppet, it didn't look like. So I think that he was upset at the fact that he didn't get a kiss on the cheek, but it also looked like he wasn't really necessarily interested in that either. So I think it was a little bit of the puppet and, the stimulating environment of the friends around.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of seemed like too, like Natalie was saying that, when he went over to the teacher, it was more like maybe he needed some form of reassurance,
Mm-hmm.
because of everything going on around him, and that he didn't get a turn.
Yeah, so we see that the teacher does give him this attention. She goes, put the puppet away. He starts hitting himself. He stops hitting himself as soon as he gets attention from another teacher, and he's able to crawl over to her and get in her lap. So the function of this one for him was also to obtain attention. So again, 54-second observation. We collected all of that information. We're able to understand what this behavior is trying to communicate with us, and that's going to make it much easier for us to address. All right, we're going to see the same boy. This one's about 59 seconds long. Again, antecedents, behavior, consequence.
All right. Let's go over here and play with some balls. Miss Jeannie, get you some balls. Ryan, do you need help? Do you need help? Do you need help? 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 Let's put our shirt back on, okay? There we go. Would you like to have a ball? Oh, where's your ball? Would you like to have a ball? Huh? What would you like? You want me to hug? Oh, what? Oh, nice hug. Nice hug. All right.
Okay, so what do we think on this one?
The teacher, kind of like the last one, I guess kind of different, but as you were stating before, once he got put down, he got really, really upset again. He was pulling out his shirt, essentially doing anything that would, attract the attention back to him.
Yep,
Yeah,
so go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the teacher, walked him over to the pillow to sit down and, was talking about the toys, the ball. And once she put him down on the pillow, his behavior started where he started pulling his shirt, hitting his head. And then he even went further and, was attempting to take his shirt off, pulled his arm out of his shirt. But clearly he was trying to obtain something. He was trying to communicate with them that he was not happy being put on the pillow.
And I don't know specifically this boy in this video as far as personally, but we can kind of see that there may be some concerns for maybe some developmental delays. But we are still able to use this process, this ABC process, to still understand the function of these behaviors, even with students who we might deal with who might have developmental delays or diagnosed disabilities. So I think that these videos are really helpful in understanding that. So we do see that the teacher sits him down. She said she's going to go get some balls. He starts pulling his shirt. He's throwing himself on the pillow. He's kicking. He's hitting himself in the head. The teacher returns. He stops. He gets a hug. They put their shirt back on. He's good to go. So again, the function of this behavior is to get the teacher's attention. Now, with this, it's important to note that we observed him in 2 different settings, 2 different times of the day, where we still see that specific behavior happening with the hitting and the shirt pulling. So when we are tracking information for children, when we're addressing challenging behaviors, it is important for us to watch them across multiple activities to make sure that we understand that that is the behavior and that is the function of that behavior, so that we can make an informed decision. All right, so this goes on to what I just said. Behavior is appropriate in some settings and not others. So, for example, running is an acceptable behavior outside on the playground, but not in the classroom. Also, playing in centers is acceptable during free choice, but centers may not be acceptable during lunchtime. So the same behavior can have different functions, and it's important to always look at the antecedents and the consequences to determine those functions, right? So that's why we want to track these behaviors across multiple times of the day. So we might have a child screaming and crying when they come to school, screaming and crying at school to avoid cleaning up after snack, but they might be screaming and crying at home to gain attention. So it's really important. It's also very helpful to get families involved. When we are having these discussions, when we're sharing this information, sharing these observations, they may be able to give us some insight that we may not have inside the school space. So previous experiences, child wellness, and other contextual events can really influence a child's behavior. So we want to think about the fact that context includes not only what occurred immediately before the behavior, but also setting events. So these are events that are not immediate triggers, but may make the behavior more likely to occur when an immediate trigger happens. So this might include things like, do they have an ear infection? Maybe their allergies are acting up. Are they hungry? Or was there a disruption on the bus or at home before coming to school? There are other things to consider. Other events such as trauma may also affect ongoing behavior with a student. And the process that we will use to develop a behavior support plan will consider if these setting events are a factor related to a child's challenging behavior and help us identify strategies to address those events. So this slide just kind of points out that even when we have systems in place for preventing challenging behavior and teaching social emotional competencies, some young children are still going to engage in these challenging behaviors. So this introduces what to do when a challenging behavior occurs. We're going to first, we're going to first use developmentally appropriate strategies such as redirection and planned ignoring. We're also going to respond to the child still by stating the expected behavior in positive terms or providing an acceptable alternative, and then providing very positive attention or positive descriptive feedback when the child engages in that appropriate behavior. So these are our essential practices that we're going to start with first with challenging behaviors in order to try and address the majority of them. So we're just going to review a couple of these real quick. So redirection is a strategy that's intended to guide a child's behavior from an inappropriate behavior to an appropriate behavior. So if a child's banging a car into another child, we can calmly put our hand on the car to block the child from getting hit. And we might also say roll the car gently. We can also model the behavior by rolling a car to show the child what to do. These are some examples. So if a child takes another child's toy, we might offer a more acceptable social skill. So you can trade with serenity. Or if a child's throwing blocks, we might try and redirect by saying, let's build. You can put your block right here. Planned ignoring works best if obtaining attention is the function of the behavior, because it's withholding attention when the challenging behavior occurs. If we use it, we must also provide high levels of attention for the desirable and alternative behaviors that we're looking for. So we're going to look for the child to do anything appropriate so that we can give them positive feedback. There may be some side effects to planned ignoring, and this might include increased aggression or intensity of the behavior that you're trying to ignore. For example, a child who is yelling may yell louder, or they may get right in front of your face while they're yelling. If the child gets attention from another source, maybe from their peers or from your co-teacher, you ignoring the behavior may not work. So everybody kind of has to be on board with this. Also, if obtaining attention is not the function of their behavior, we may actually be giving the child what they want by ignoring them. So if the child wants to get away from other people and we're ignoring them, we will be reinforcing that behavior. Or if the child wants to play with a toy and we ignore them, they may get to play with the toy still. So this will, again, possibly increase behavior. So these strategies have to be very intentional. And we really have to use them once we understand the function of the behavior itself. However, it's really important that we are ignoring the behavior and not the child. In fact, we should pay much more attention to the child to catch them when they are doing something more desirable. So we're still going to keep them in our sights. We're still going to give them a positive descriptive feedback as soon as they engage in any behavior that we want to reinforce. There are some key things here, though, with planned ignoring. If another child's hurt, we're going to attend to the child who is hurt. We're going to provide brief redirection to the child exhibiting the challenging behavior. So something like, Tim, it looks like you got hurt. Come sit with me. Sarah, you can go stack the blocks. Or we might shift our attention to another child without saying anything to the child that's being disruptive. And again, just it has to be within the function of that behavior. Additional strategies that may be effective in reducing challenging behavior are on this slide. So, we want to remind children of posted expectations. So, Rex, let's be kind to our friends and use our gentle hands when we're playing with cars. Or if a child's throwing blocks, we might say, if you're going to throw the blocks, we will need to put them away. We're going to keep the blocks on the rug. And if they continue to throw the blocks, we're going to help the child put the blocks away immediately. A teacher may offer support to a child after a challenging behavior. So once they've calmed down, we're going to walk them through the 4 problem-solving steps. We're going to prompt them by saying things like, let's think about what the problem was. What can you do when the computer center is full? And we're going to help them evaluate evaluate solutions and then help them select solutions. Now, remember, when we are in the process of a really big emotional feeling, we're not going to want to teach anything new. Children at a heightened state of emotions are not receptive to any new information. So we're not going to teach them new strategies in that moment. We're going to give them an opportunity to calm down before we try and teach them some new social skill. Okay, let's see here. So we're gonna, I believe this is another video. We're gonna watch a quick video and we're gonna pay attention to whether she uses developmentally appropriate strategies, whether she responds by stating behavior expectations or providing an acceptable alternative, and if she provides positive attention or positive descriptive feedback. Let's see here. This video is about 2 minutes long.
Your body was sitting on it. I saw it. I know that makes us sad when you don't get what you want. There are other colors. And, Laura, there is a spot by Katie. You can sit not on a color either. Okay? Because you have this. You have this one to sit on. Okay, so I'm gonna start group. Let me know if you need anything else, but I think you can do it. Okay?
Sandy came to have my water.
Yeah. Oh, and if your pointer finger knows where to point, let's point to the pictures too.
You know what? This my phone.
One second.
The pointer.
Okay, is anybody gonna point with me? Yeah, Katie is. Here we go. We're gonna do our best to ignore her, okay? Eyes are watching, ears are listening. has her hand up. What is your question, Katie?
Mine is not.
Katie says she likes being the problem helper. I like when you're the problem helper too. Friends, if Katie's the problem helper, what can we ask her to do for us today? If someone has a problem, we can say, Katie, will you come help me solve my problem? And what do you think around the room Katie will go and get for us? Maybe a timer or the solution kit? That's right.
Yeah. Now we can say tap tap.
We could say tap tap.
Yeah.
Very nice. Lara, you have your hand up. Are you the line leader? You get to be the line caboose.
All right. So, did we feel that she used development appropriate strategies here?
Yes, I think she did. Because she acknowledged that she was upset, which is good for the child to know that they have been listened to, you know.
Yeah, she did on this one.
Yeah.
And did she respond by stating the expected behavior in positive terms or providing acceptable alternatives? I already put that up. Yes, she did.
Yeah,
Sorry.
she told her she had that color to sit on, and she also had or she didn't have a color, but she had her little wedge that she could sit on.
And then did she provide positive attention or positive descriptive feedback when the child was behaving appropriately?
Yes, she did both. She gave her positive attention when she stopped crying, and then, when she talked about what job she had, she was positive in that regard for her helping.
Yeah. So we did see all three of them in here. This wasn't as quite much of a challenging behavior as some of the things we see in our classroom, but this was a good example of still using these practices to address challenging behaviors. Kids, we all have our own feelings. We all have big feelings sometimes, and especially little ones. So they've got to have a time and a space to self-regulate and know that they can come back and be cared for. So this was a nice example of how that kind of happened, even in a circle time. All right. Let's see here. So I think, sorry guys, give me just a second. I'm trying to, okay. Yeah, I was trying to remember where we were at in this PowerPoint. And we do have time to watch this video. So this one's a video. It's just short of 4 minutes. So it's a little bit longer, but we're still going to be looking for the same essential strategies. Is the teacher using developmentally appropriate strategies? Is she responding to the child by stating expected behaviors in positive terms, or providing an acceptable alternative? And is she providing positive attention or positive descriptive feedback when the child behaves appropriately? If you've been in this course for a while now, you may have already seen this video. It's still one of my favorite videos, though. She uses some amazing strategies in this one. So I encourage you to just kind of look and see how you might be able to apply this similarly in your classroom.
This is really good.
It's good? You like it?
Yeah, wait, do you want to taste it? Oh! Wait, I
Xavier, you are using the phone right now. Xavier. You are using the phone. Juno wants to play with the dishes. You know what? What we supposed to do when we mad? What we supposed to do when we upset? Huh? You want to do it together? What does it say? Take 3 big breaths. Let's take 3 big breaths.
You're messing up my dishes.
We need to calm down. I want you to relax, just like that. When you relax, then we will go back to home living. What is he asking you to do? You want to do like Taco Turtle? You want to do Taco Turtle? What does Taco Turtle do? Yeah, he hides on the shelf, and then what he does to calm down? He took 3 big breaths. You want to take 3 big breaths? Smell the flowers and blow the candle. Practice. Let's practice together. Look. Good. Xavier. Smell flowers. Smell the flowers. And blow the candles. Blow the candles. You're not doing like Taco Turtle does. Yeah, good job. Nope. Smell the flowers. Let's smell the flowers. And blow the candles. Okay, when you all come down, you let me know that you're ready to go back to home living. But before we go back to home living, yeah, that's right. What we need to do in home living? Share the toys. And what else we need to do in home living? Use what? Use what? Use our words, right? Nicely. Are we ready to go to home living and play nicely? And share with the toys and use our words? Okay, everyone is going to play with the toys, Xavier. Everyone. No, the dishes belongs to everybody. See, now you're happy again. I'm glad when you're happy. See, when you're happy, everybody's happy, Xavier. I like to see you smile. Let me see that smile. Let me see that smile.
All right, so let's break this down. Did she use development appropriate strategies?
Yes.
What kind of strategies did you see, Gloria?
Well, she acknowledged him right away when she saw that there was a problem with him wanting to share the toys. So she didn't let it escalate. She tried redirecting him and reminding him that it was his turn to use the phone and it was the other child's turn to play with dishes.
Yeah.
And
This was,
then
go ahead.
I was going to say, and then when, obviously when he continued to get upset, she took him over to the calming corner and started working with him there to calm him down so that she could talk to him about, the behaviors that he should exhibit when he would go back to home living. And then when she got him back in home living, she explained to him or was, gave positive attention to that she was glad when he was happy and that the other children are, happy when he is happy and could he smile, for her. And so she really gave him good attention for his positive behavior and gave him alternatives to his negative behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have any comments on the video? Thank you, Gloria.
I don't have a comment on the video, but the video kind of goes in correlation with an issue that I'm having in my classroom myself. So I just wanted to ask if I could get feedback from you and maybe some other people in the group as well. So it's kind of the same scenario, except our students are 1-year-olds. So I do, remove her from the situation. I tell her, that's not yours, that belongs to another student. But when I bring her over, we say teeth are not, what she's doing right now is she'll go to bite if she wants something that the other student has. And so, we tried the teeth are not for biting, we smile with our teeth. We've tried, moving her away and then kind of ignoring her to see if that's, exactly what she's focused on, or not necessarily focused on, but if she wants attention, sorry, another teacher just coming through real quick. But it's no matter, even if we bring her down, sit her with us for a few minutes, have her calm down, and then go back. She's still kind of doing the same behaviors, and it seems like she's frustrated with whatever item that she's trying to get, or if she wants it from a friend, but we're not able to stop. You know, she's not stopping it with regardless of what we're doing. So I just wanted to know if there's any feedback you have or anybody else who's kind of maybe dealt with the same problem and fixed it. Because we did have another student who had that problem, but we did fix it pretty quickly. It's just this child is one of the older students in our class. So she kind of knows that she can push others out of the way. And she's kind of learned that she's a little bit bigger and stronger than them.
Yeah, so obviously, you know, you've worked with this age group for a while now. Biting at that age group is developmentally appropriate, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Especially because they don't have the skills that they need to express their frustration or to express their needs and their wants. So my biggest suggestion for you is going to be modeling it for her and helping her through the steps of how do we tap each other on the shoulder to get their attention? How do we maybe hold our hand out for the toy? You're going to show it. You're going to kind of walk her through those steps. You're going to support her and practice those strategies with her in order for the biting to not become as effective. Because
okay, so instead of removing her from the situation, show her the proper steps instead, and then stay over there.
Yeah.
Okay. And
it's
then
going to take some time. It's going to take some time. It's going to take quite a few, maybe 2 or 3 weeks if you're being really consistent with it. But it will work.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm noting that. But thank you so much. I will definitely be trying that.
Another thing that I've tried, that I don't have children that young, but I do have grandchildren. And so I just read a story to them about, you know, our mouths are not for biting. And it really helped show them, you know, like what they should be doing with their mouths. So, just to kind of help redirect them and give them, you know, the process to think about. Yeah, so if you do what Lexi's doing and then maybe read the story, maybe that would just kind of help reinforce the behavior, the more positive behavior. I mean, you could even read it to all the kids, you know, in a group, just to kind of help reinforce that, you know, they shouldn't be biting and this is what we use our mouths for.
I actually love your idea on that. We actually just read a book, Teeth Are Not for Biting, this week in regards to that, to see if that would help a little bit. And then, you know, kind of repeating off what that book says is teeth are not for biting, they're for smiling. And then we show her, you know, smiling and things like that. But I appreciate that as well, because we'll definitely keep reading that book, you know, to her, with her, and doing the other stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and when she does the behavior and you get her calm, you can always look at the pictures in the book and say, see, this is what we do. And, you know, that kind of thing, just to kind of help reinforce the positive behaviors and, you know, instead of the negative behaviors. It's really hard with little ones. Some of them, they're very persistent.
Yeah.
So it's
She most definitely is. Well, she understands, and the thing is, she understands that she's bigger, you know, than some of these students, and so she seems to think it's okay for her to go over, and so that's what we're trying to get out of. But I appreciate that advice too, because we're definitely going to be using it. And then I do have and this is more for, I believe, well, actually, either one, Lexi or you, Gloria. So when we do sit her down, and, you know, we have her kind of calm down with us for a few moments, I normally let her, after she calms down, we tell her teeth are not for biting again, and I let her walk off and go back to the activity. Should I walk her back over to the activity that she was originally at and, you know, kind of stay over there and monitor it? Or should I continue to kind of have her sit down with me for that time being, and then have her just walk off after, you know, her and I have sat down and kind of calmed down?
I mean,
Go ahead, Gloria.
I was just going to say, I would think you should go back with her. And then that way, when she's making good, positive choices, you can reinforce her positive behavior. And then that way she understands that this is good behavior that she's doing, you know, she's doing positive behavior now. Yeah, instead of just letting her go over there by herself, that way she hears you reinforcing the good stuff too.
Yeah. She seems to know when she's doing wrong because she'll sit down and do what you've asked her to. And since after you tell a student thank you, now she'll sit down and go and look at you and go, thank you, which is something else. But just wanted to add that in because I thought it was funny. But thank you. I took notes on all of that. But yeah, we've just been struggling with that a little bit with that specific student in the class. And so we did have another student, but we were able to redirect her. And so she's using other methods of, ways to get her needs and wants in the classroom.
You can do it.
Yeah, and thank you guys. I appreciate those tips and tricks.
I think I actually have a resource I can share with you about biting.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Just trying to see if I could find it. So let me look for it here shortly. Oops, sorry. But if you go to the challengingbehaviors.org website, they have a huge resource library that has all of these resources on the screen, including how to help your child stop biting. And this is a family resource that you can send home, but it also has some strategies to try on at school. But that way you and the families can be on the same page about how to address the biting situation. You don't have to create an account or anything, just go to their resource library. Also, any of their family resources can be translated into multiple languages, such as Spanish, French, Creole, Arabic. So it's a wonderful resource. I would encourage you to check it out.
Fantastic. It's called challengingbehaviors.org, correct?
Correct.
Hey,
Awesome.
Lexi, I also have this that Katie had shared with us. I don't know if you guys.
Oh, we do have a social story called My Mouth. Yep.
Yeah, and that's the one that I really like the best. That seems to be really effective. Yeah, so that might work too as an alternative story for you to read, or just an additional story.
Yeah, I would definitely. Social stories called My Mouth.
So Natalie, if you shoot me an email, that way I remember. If you shoot me an email, just ask me to send you the My Mouth social story. I will definitely be happy to share that with you.
It's a great story. I really like it.
Yeah, no, and I am definitely on board and all, on ears for everything, especially because I just want to correct the behavior and, make sure that, every child here is, having a great day, because I know that it's not, so great when another child is on the other end of the receiving stick, to say the least. And so I just wanted to stop behaviors, any bad behaviors and all that.
Yeah. Well, this is going to wrap up our session for today, ladies. Sorry, it was jam-packed. It was full. I always like the videos. They help really show how to use these strategies in the classroom. So just a couple more important points here. The use of these response strategies is intended to reduce the likelihood of challenging behavior, but will not be effective without careful and intentional attention to teaching social skills and emotional competencies. So that is going to end our video portion of our session today. Let me drop the evaluation in the chat box for you guys so you can receive your in-service hours. Does anybody have any lingering questions for me while I do this?
No, just should I send you my email through here, or should I just
can you email me directly at alongiri@elcalachua.org?
Yeah.
Do you have my email?
If it's connected it should be connected to the Zoom link, correct?
Let me put it in the chat box.
Awesome. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, if you can send me that, I'd be happy to share that social story with you. It was something that one of our previous coaches had created a while ago. It is a really nice resource. Instead of telling kids, we don't bite, the social story goes into what we can do with our mouths instead.
Oh, I really like that. So there's methods and things then if we learn, right?
Yeah, I've used it a lot with our 3-year-old room. Sometimes we get children that they're still biting at 3 and or just can't find the right words that they need, and they revert back to biting, and it's been very helpful with them. But granted, they're a couple years older.
Does anybody need anything else before we end our session today?
No.
It was nice to see everybody. Thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend.
You too. Thanks again.